Mission San Miguel is often referred to as the mission along the highway. We're looking down now on a scene of the old Highway 101, which followed the El Camino Real Trail of the California missionaries established from 1769 to 1823. This was the most visible of all the missions because it was right up against the mainline highway. One time State Highway 2 becoming Highway 101 in the 1920s, and with California's mission mania, designed by the local chambers of commerce along Highway 101, the Mission Trails Association, to promote tourism. This was not to be missed mission. Mission San Miguel was started in the period after Father Junipero Serra's death. We see a life-size statue of Father Serra. He actually passed by this spot and very possibly suggested that there be a mission here to connect the gap between missions San Luis Obispo to the south and mission San Antonio to the north. But that was not built during his lifetime. He died in 1784. It was not until 1797 that the Padres were assigned to found a new mission at this spot. The mission fields flourished with many, many crops. The few head of cattle brought up from Mission San Luis Obispo also grew in number as the spring grasses sprouted on the plains adjoining the mission, and thousands of cattle were soon present. The mission became most famous for its breed of Californio Mustangs, the prized horses that were rated amongst the fastest horses in the world. The missionaries brought with them European technology, which they introduced to the Native Americans of this region, the Salinan peoples, who were very, very quick learners, and adapted many of the ways of the Western world. Looms on which wool of the sheep could be woven into fine blankets. Olives could be pressed into olive oil, and Mission San Miguel soon became famous as a supplier of olive oil to other missions where olives were not so easily grown. The grapes are a lasting legacy of this region. Here we see a small part of the remaining vineyard in front of the mission. The missionaries probably never could have envisioned what would happen 200 plus years later with tens of thousands of grapes stretching both to the east and to the west of the present-day mission site. Mission San Miguel, like many of the missions, simply because they're very, very old structures, has a number of ghost stories affiliated with it. In this graveyard, underneath an unmarked grave, are the remains of 7 individuals who were the victims of California's first mass murder in December 1848. The tragedy had its beginning with the end of the mission system. Mission San Miguel, when the last Spanish Franciscan had to leave it in the early 1830s, only had an Indian population of about 200, but it had over 85,000 head of cattle and over 10,000 horses under its control. As a result, everyone wanted to gain control over the mission lands. And 2 gentlemen in 1845 put in a winning bid. One of these men was Petronio Rios, who has an adobe just down the road from here. The other was William Reed, an Englishman. Now, the significance of their acquiring the mission in the last days of Mexican California is only realized when the gold rush occurs. Gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill on the Sacramento, near the Sacramento and American River in January of 1848. By the summer of 1848, the world was already rushing into California. Those Argonauts, the minor 49ers, had to be fed, and the mission cattle were the closest food that they had. This mission had one of the largest herds of cattle nearby the gold fields. All you had to do was to go over the passes and the coast ranges and drive the cattle up along the banks of the San Joaquin River, where they could be put on barges and taken to the various gold rush towns. Both men grew fantastically wealthy during this period. That wealth ran to William Reed's head. One day, several compatriots from England came by the mission that they had having stolen some other gold, and they asked Reed, would Reed give them cash for it? Reed said, surely, I have scales right here with me, and I'll weigh out the gold for you right now, and I'll give you cash money for it so that you can spend it without having to divulge yourselves as owners of any large quantity of gold. He then made the mistake of saying that he had more gold on hand than his young son could lift. As soon as his back was turned, he was struck with an axe. His children and his wife dispatched. Only a young boy at the age of 6 managed to escape, running out to the fields of mustard grass, where he was later found. He was able to relay the story of what had happened and died immediately thereafter. The posse traced the miscreants all the way down to Ortega Hill, which is just south of Santa Barbara, between Summerlin and Montecito. There a gun battle ensued, and several of the gang of bandits were killed. 3 survived, however, and they were brought to a military trial. The trial was done vigilante style. The judge was also the prosecutor. There was no jury. The men were forced to sign lengthy confessions as to what they had done. They blamed the people who'd already been killed, but that didn't save their lives. And then they were summarily shot before a firing squad. Word spread throughout California about what had happened here at Mission San Miguel, and soon a demand was going up for statehood. The military government was not able to protect the citizens of California. Therefore, Californians had to protect themselves by forming their own government. So out of the seeds of the tragedy here was born the idea that became a reality 1 year later, when the United States Congress accepted California's Constitution drafted in Monterey's Colton Hall, and California became a state in the United States of America in September of 1850. Many people say the ghost of that massacre still occupy this mission at night. I want viewers to know that I have spent part of a night in this graveyard. I have not seen the ghost, but believe me, I have a feeling that something important did happen here. The last Franciscan friars had left Mission San Miguel in the early 1830s. The buildings fell into a period of neglect and decay. Rios put no effort into their maintenance, and so when the mission was finally returned to the Roman Catholic Church in the early 1860s, a great deal of work had to be done. When, after the American Civil War, friars returned to the mission, they had a large building task at hand. By 1900, the Franciscan order was firmly ensconced here once again, and the decision was made to turn the mission into a minor seminary, training young men from Mexico, where the Franciscan order had been banned by the new Mexican Constitution promulgated in the early 1920s. Bringing 30 to 40 young Mexican seminarians here to the mission gave the Padres a labor force to do a great deal of restoration work. The tile roofs were repaired with authentic California mission-style tiles. The fireplaces were reinforced, but a great deal of the inside, the interior of the mission, was left exactly as it was found. No other mission has such an original feel to it. Unfortunately, some of that original feel reflects maintenance yet to be done. And so these are tasks for future generations of mission conservationists. On the 23rd of December 2003, the earth rattled and rolled. An earthquake centering on San Simeon, not far from the Hearst Castle, had its vector go directly parallel to the mission buildings, to the main church of the mission, and it literally whipsawed. It moved like a snake winding across the earth, and it bent the buildings out of alignment. The mission was in danger of falling down. Fortunately, only one person was in the mission at this relatively early hour in the morning, and she was not injured. There were no fatalities here at the mission, although there were 2 fatalities in downtown Paso Robles, just a few miles to the south. Many people thought that the mission could not be saved. A local effort was quickly begun by the small community of San Miguel, where the children urged their mothers to bake cookies for cookie sales and such. And they were joined by the greater world, both the Catholic Church in Paso Robles, joined by all the Protestant churches, including several black churches, joined in raising money. And soon the California Missions Foundation came to the rescue of Mission San Miguel, making it a national effort. Mission San Miguel is named after the Archangel Michael, who, if we go back to the book of Genesis, at the very beginning, in the primordial war that between Lucifer, the Prince of Morning, and God, was cast from heaven into the eternal depths by the Archangel Gabriel. There is no mission that has a greater impact visually upon entering it either. I always sensed from the time I was 4 or 5 that this was a very special place, because look behind me. The 3-dimensional, all-seeing eye of God just leaps out at you. The painting of the walls, which were painted between 1812 and 1818 by Esteban Munris, for whose family Munris Street in Monterey, California is named. They later had a very famous hostelry, a hotel there. Painted these. He was a Catalan artist and had been invited by Father Chabot to come in and do the painting. And it replicates the interior of a Roman theater. My mentor, Norman Neuerberg, the great art historian of the California missions, said there was no more compelling place in all of the missions of the Western Hemisphere than this particular space. The greatest miracle occurred here on the 23rd of December 2003, when the earth shook right along the lines of this church. The San Simeon Earthquake at that time did grievous damage to the entire church. Fortunately, only one person was in the church at that time, and no one was injured. Here again, one likes to think St. Michael the Archangel was protecting the property. If these murals had been lost, it would have been a tragedy. Fortunately, they're still here today. And thanks to the effort of the California Mission Foundation, the Franciscans themselves, the Diocese of Monterey, and thousands of other local people who contributed their all to seismically retrofit this building and to restore these murals to a sense of safety, at least until we get a really major earthquake, when at the very least people will have time to get out of the church. The beauty of this mission is that the old highway is still in front of it, and the railroad still goes by it. I love to take visitors to California along the highway that I began traveling in the early 1940s as a very small child. And if possible, I like to do it in August when the heat is really up. And we stop our cars, we park. Of course, our cars are air-conditioned today. They weren't then. You get out in the enormous heat and feel it for a brief moment, and then you enter the church. And there is St. Michael the Archangel greeting you with the all-seeing eye of God, and the sense of cool comfort comes over you. It's a totally spiritual experience that can only be had in one of California's great treasures.